Yeah, okay.
And Paul,
Used to always be this.
So what I'm wondering is whether we can,
Taken and done, and not saying it was the right decision, but she had the power under the delegation. And understanding.
I'm just wondering if we can adjust it. So with vice president on options.
We'd skip 5 days anyway.
Yeah.
We don't need to know
that
later.
later.
For that.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko karo rawa ko upo wāhuna awa, ko ihutai te moana, ko waitai te hapori, ki ngā paenga o tātou e mahi nei, ko McMahon tuku ingoa, ko au matakura o tēnei koari. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.
Tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora. Welcome everybody to the Waitai Community Board meeting. So you're aware we are being live streamed on the internet, and so we may be being joined by friends afar. Who knows who might be watching? You're welcome to join me now for a karakia tematanga. Screen there. Whakataka te hau i te uru. Whakataka te hau i te tonga. Kia mā te kina ki uta. Kia mā taratara ki toa. E hiki ana te ahatura. I te ro, i ura, i ahurua. Tihei maurua.
All right, thank you, everybody. So officially, we don't have any apologies unless anybody is leaving early. No apologies. Moving now to declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. We're moving on to the confirmation of previous minutes. The meeting of the 9th of February. Jackie, happy to move. Happy to second Kelly. Any discussion? No, I'll put that now. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. No abstentions. Thank you. And so now we move on to public forum. We have 4 public forum presentations. The first of which being Moradora Sagals from Birthright Canterbury Trust. And you're welcome to join us at the end of the table. Now, each public forum has 5 minutes, including questions. So if you would like to give us the opportunity to ask questions, might want to give us a bit of time, but the floor is yours for up to 5 minutes if you'd like.
Thank you Paul. Tēnā koutou katoa ko Rodora Sagles Aho. I'm the manager for Birthright Canterbury Trust. First of all, thank you for this opportunity and congratulations on the newly joined members, and to those who have been here before. We'd love to see you here again. We have a short video, and then I'll give you some specific things about in the community board, and some questions if you have some questions. Apologies, we have a parent that is supposed to come with me, but her daughter was sick. Thank you.
Myself and my daughter Isabella, she's 10 years old, and our cat, Maya.
So for this community ward, we have over 100 members. So it's the highest with all of Christchurch. And yeah, as single parents, especially now with the inflation and food prices, we've been hearing that with a lot of parents, and recently with going back to school, that's been a big struggle for them as well. So we have social workers who work with these families. They work one-to-one, they go to home visits, and they work together. They they ask the families what their aspirations are and what inspires them with their whānau, and then we work together with them. For the children, we try and do some school holiday outings every school holiday period. So it's the longer term working side by side with the family so that these children will be able to become like you, be good community citizens of Christchurch. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
A little bit of time. Kelly and then Jackie.
Awesome, thank you for the reading too. What motivates you to be involved in?
So for me, living in the Philippines, I haven't seen a lot of that, I guess, opportunities. So for me, every time I wake up and go to work, if I do the funding applications. So I'm so happy whenever we get funding, and I know these children will have opportunity to be able to go to camps, clip and climb, have that uniform. That uniform is like a playing field for them. Some parents say if the kids have uniform, same as the two-parent families, they don't feel quite left out. They're like everybody else, they're part of the team, and they're not sort of discriminated as being part of a one-parent family.
All right, thank you. Final question from Jackie.
As a single parent, so I greatly appreciate everything you do, and it can be very hard. My question is, how many paid employees do you have?
Paid employees in Christchurch, we have 2 social workers part-time, and myself, and 1 program support and volunteer coordinator. So 4 here in Christchurch and 1 in Ashburton.
And what is your primary source of funding?
It's everywhere. So I have a huge list of funding that we go to. We don't have a government contract, and we just apply to anywhere and everywhere. And we have a waiting list. So the demand is there, and we needed more resources to help us do our work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dora, and thank you very much for all the work that you and your colleagues do.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next public forum deputation is the New Brighton Olympic. Sylvia Romero joining us.
Yeah.
Hi, Sylvia.
Hi.
Same as for birthright, you've got 5 minutes, including questions. So
Yep.
Tell us what you'd like to tell us.
Right. Well, so my name is Silvia Romero. I'm the club captain from New Brighton Olympic Athletics Club, based in Rafiti Domain. I think the forest speaks for itself. It's a grass track, but it's not maintained well. It's country grounds, and mainly we need 3 things: to be watered regularly, to be marked regularly, and as standards. Some of the lanes are not too wide, or they are too short. And the main thing that we would like to find out how it can happen is reseeding during winter. So in summer, when we start the new season, we have a proper track that is not. It hasn't happened. You can see October, if you go into the next pictures, I can compare October with November. In November, the lanes were painted, all the lanes, but yes, yeah. And how wide they are, yeah, and how dry, it's just like, if you could go to the next one. Unfortunately, I don't have anything from December. When we came back from the holidays in January, the grass is too high. You can see the difference where it's no grass whatsoever. And then they start, I say they, I don't know what agency or group that takes care of the track. They painted in black, that is difficult to see. And I think I might have another one. After the rain, that's what we get. And that's how the children have been training since October, well, September, October, until now that we finished this weekend. So I'm seeking for help from you guys, or from trying to reach to the right.
So for me, from being from Linwood, can you tell me which reserve park is this?
We are in Graffiti Domain.
Graffiti, you're right.
Yes.
Okay. Just so that we can't make any decisions from this meeting, because it's a public forum, but we can ask for information.
Yeah.
So thank you for providing information. Now I'm going to go to Joe.
Okay, so I followed this up at the start of the year. I had a complaint from someone who was a member of the public, not a club member, but an ex-club member. And Bridie responded to me. She said that because they've got Napuna open here, that this is taking the back burner. But still, it's a club asset and it needs to be maintained. So I don't know whether it has to be done through the council sub here and more of a schedule.
It's council ground.
It's council ground, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yanni and Ingrid.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's pretty shocking. I'm sorry, that's very disappointing.
Yeah.
I just wondered, in terms of the athletics club, do they have a license to occupy or a lease agreement with the council?
Yeah, it's a lease agreement. We own the building, a couple of buildings that we have at the moment, and it's council grounds. So we have a very small lease.
Is there any agreement that you have with the council around the use of the track and maintenance of the track?
We used to do not the cutting of the grass, we used to do the marking, but 4 years ago, we were told that the council has to take care of it, and it happens when it happens. We've been asking to do it earlier on the year because we have schools doing the athletics day there, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. We don't contact the council directly, we contact Athletics Canterbury, Ian Thomas from Athletics Canterbury, and then
I mean, the good thing is,
We're going to go time. We're going to go a little bit more time. We can talk about this in members' information exchange.
Okay.
Great.
How many members do you have for junior and senior?
I deal only with the summer part of athletics, and then it's winter and summer. This year we have 74 children. It's only junior.
That's only junior.
Yeah, and in winter it's junior and senior. I cannot tell you the numbers because I don't know.
All right. Thank you very much, Sylvia, and we will obtain more information and we'll be able to get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Sustain South Brighton with Sarah Mackay and Samantha Bay. Just at the end, the same deal, you've got 5 minutes. Questions?
Kia ora, my name is Sarah Mackay, I'm from Sustain South Brighton, and we're here to talk about the Bridge Street Roundabout Improvement Project, and this is my colleague Sam, who's from Sustain as well. So we did a consultation with our local community around the Bridge Street Roundabout that is in South Brighton. It's the main route in and out of South Brighton over the South Brighton Bridge. So obviously not going to go right through this, but I'll just highlight the main points from it, and then you might have some questions. So we spoke with a range of organisations and businesses around the roundabout, and we also gathered feedback from 40 community members. So you can read more about that feedback if you want to look into the report. The aim of the deputation is to ask for a safety audit of the roundabout from relevant agencies, the generation of a range of improvement options, that the community can have input into. And we also gave what we thought was one relatively simple fix or improvement as an option to the community, and got very broad support for it. And that is the loss of one car park in front of the bridge hub to improve line of sight for people crossing the road. So if you just turn over to the findings, which is page 2, and just these key themes here. Everybody who we talked to supported the stipulation. Many people expressed concerns about roundabout safety, and quite a few people had very significant concerns about roundabout safety. There was strong concern about safety and children crossing the road at the roundabout on their way to and from school. And we've got some pictures at the back of the report which show particularly problematic areas when it comes to that. And real concern about people not slowing down when they're coming up to the roundabout over the bridge from the city and along Bridge Street. So just not slowing down, and that's really causing concern for people. So there's other feedback I've got listed there. Now, we didn't set out to get people's ideas for how it might be improved, but people gave us their ideas anyway, so I have included those, and you can have a look at some of those, but that's around clearer signage coming up to the roundabout, maybe investigating some traffic calming measures, reinstating yellow metal pedestrian barriers on corners. Really, if we could have an audit and have a range of potential solutions we could take back to the community, I think that would be really helpful. And then if you look at page 4, I've actually got quotes, and I want to highlight some of these just to really stress that people really are quite concerned about this. So the first 2 quotes are from 2 women I talked to at Common Ground around what it's like to walk their kids to school through the roundabout. And then the 3rd quote is from a woman, a local older woman, who says she uses the roundabout every day and she's always anxious. People come very quickly up to the roundabout, and she's always concerned. And quite a few people talked about witnessing near misses, including businesses who are there all the time around the roundabout. And then particularly the stuff around signage and children, because within, well, maybe 1 kilometre, we've got a kindergarten, a play centre, a primary school, and a daycare centre. So yeah, there's a lot happening there. And then just lastly on page 5, if you look at the photos, we've just used these just to highlight. Now, particularly if you look at photo A, where it says blind corner for pedestrians here, photo A and B, this is a real particular concern. This really came up strongly in the feedback I was getting. And this is when children are coming from school and parents picking kids up from school, and they're coming up Estuary Road and they're turning left into Bridge Street here, and then there's this crossing where the children are crossing and families, and you just can't see around that corner. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. We don't have much time left for this, but however, although the standing orders allow us to make any decisions, what we can do is we'll put this in the minutes, and then we can refer it to staff to provide us with information. So we should be able to get something from there, and then we'll take it from there. So it's a funny creature of the way that things have been structured by previous council. But I do really appreciate the work that's gone into this, and it's really useful to have this. It's a really good basis for the council to start the ball rolling at least.
Great.
And appreciate all the work that you do in South Brighton as well.
Nice.
I have time for a very quick question to this.
Sorry. This is really helpful, thank you. In terms of the slow road neighbourhoods, can you give any feedback on that? Because as I understand, the proposed slow road doesn't, sorry, is it
Safer speeds.
Yeah,
streets,
it doesn't come quite up to Breeze's Road, does it?
It doesn't come up to Bridge Street, so it stops at Credit Street.
Okay.
Which like most of the kids they're not walking 100 metres down the road. There's very few houses in that space. Most of them are walking much further. On that picture, there are currently 3 blind corners out of 4, with a huge number of children. The fact that no child has been seriously injured is a miracle. We've had 2 big car crashes there recently where cars have gone through safety fences, one at the preschool and one through the Bridge Street fence. So,
At least one narrow miss there.
So is that something we can also add to get investigated, just get some feedback on that, extending the range of that one?
We,
Sorry for the email that you sent me earlier.
Yeah.
We can deal with that.
Yeah,
offline.
great. Thanks.
all right, well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming to the board. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks. You. All right, and the last public forum visits is Graham Dingle Foundation, and that's with Anne Heinsohn. Is that Heinsohn?
Heinsohn, yep.
All right, there's 4 or 5 minutes, including questions, and yeah, the floor is yours.
Great. Got a couple of pictures here. Thank you for the opportunity. Graham Dingle Foundation Canterbury has been operating in Christchurch for 20 years across the city. We work primarily in low socio-economic areas and low decile schools where the need is greatest. I guess over those 20 years, we've really proven our program models and research, but we're finding demand is increasing, and we've moved quite significantly into this board area with some of our programs. And then when I say we've proven, an Infometrics report found that for every dollar invested in Graham Dingle programs, that there was a $7.80 return in cost savings down the track later. So we work with all students at the top of the cliff and trying to give them the tools and the confidence to meet and conquer the obstacles they might face. So that's just a summary of the programs, and working on mental and emotional strength and then life values as well. As I said, we're growing our delivery and presence in the Burwood Coastal-Linwood area, having worked in Linwood quite significantly over the last few years at Waitai College. So we're working right across the schools, or the youth spectrum, from age 5 through to when they leave school at 18. So just the programs that we've got operating are Kiwi Can, Stars Tainer, and a combination of Career Navigator and Project K, which we're running in this area. So I thought so there's a little bit of detail with those underneath those, but I'll just quickly go through our Kiwi Can program, 5 to 12 years. We're currently running that. It started that in Maraho Primary and Shirley Primary this year. Just recently finished working in Banks Ave, having been there for a number of years. It's a life skills and values program delivered to the whole school. So what we do is come in and try and work with the school on behaviour and culture change. So the principal and the teachers have to make decisions around what comes in and out in the curriculum time and outside of curriculum time. And that's where we fit in. So we're very aware that you don't fund in curriculum hours, and our program with Kiwi Can is both in curriculum and outside. So we work before school, after school, and the lunch break as well, the lunch and morning tea breaks. The other program that we operate is Stars Tainer, new program for years 7 to 8, helping students make a transition into intermediate and secondary school. So it's an inquiry-based program, and we trialled that last year at Waitai College, and we've continued in 2023 and looking at expanding that further with intermediate schools going forward. The third program we operate here, which is a combination of Project K, which is really where Graham Dingle Foundation started, and Career Navigator. So we piloted that in 2022, and this year have got it operating, and it's a community-based program. So there's a component of wilderness expedition, a community project, activity day, and then mentoring sessions with community mentors. So the schools that we've been working with in your area here are Hayata, Shirley Boys, Moho, and Linwood High Schools. So we get kids from community referrals, both school and outside of school, onto a program that operates completely outside of school hours. Our community connection engagement, because we think that's really important. So we work really closely with the community through community projects, where every program does a community project, so they're learning about delivering back rather than just receiving. We work closely with community groups and agencies for referral for the Heiara Konga.
About 30 seconds left.
Great, nearly finished. We have businesses that contribute to the career advice and experience, and mentors that come from the community. So that's just an overview of our programs that are operating here in this board.
Well, thank you very much. And I work at Waipuna, and we do but stuff with the similar demographic, including the adventure therapy stuff, so that know how strong the evidence base is for it. So yeah, just the reputation of Graham Dingwall Foundation is very good. Appreciate the work that you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Graham Dingwall, second and first coast to coast in 1983.
All right. Well, next we have the bus shelter. So I think we'll hear from Andrew while he's here, and we'll have a brief adjournment after this item.
Sarah Thorne apologises for not being able to make it today. She's attending another board meeting at the same time, but I'll be able to front any questions regarding the proposed bus shelter.
Sorry, I was just watching people go out the door.
Oh, that's right.
That's that.
I can add there has been on Friday a follow-up to both the properties, because there wasn't a consultation response received. And Sarah has not heard back from them a follow-up on Friday either. So
okay, so we don't have any further information from what we have in our report. Right. Well, is there anything you wanted to draw our attention to?
I guess just going past the site today, just seeing how busy it was in the afternoon, and it's actually both the bus stops on that side are busy, one by the BP and also the one further down. I did ask Sarah, did some background on this about the shelters on the other side. It is somewhat complicated than being on Ministry of Education thing, and I think, and that's following up from Philip Haythornthwaite's submission as well. He makes a good point about need for shelters both sides and things. Is that, I think that would be the intention, but I think Sarah would like Ministry of Education to progress that if possible first.
Thank you. Question, Alex?
That's more of a statement.
More of a statement that English Shitty Boys?
Yeah.
I actually did as well, so it's
Yeah,
declare that.
yeah. So many of you know I'm a young bloke, fresh out of high school. So I used to, obviously, I was a deputy head boy at Shirley Boys. Yeah, I was. And yeah, there are so many boys every day that use these bus stops. So most of the students, us.
So I'm just going to point out, I think girls use it too.
As a student.
You said boys.
Oh, sorry. Students, yeah, boy students. So most of them bus or bike to school, and busing is probably the big one. Now this bus stop, I'm fairly certain is the public bus, isn't it? Not the school buses. Now the majority of the students actually do use the public buses, despite the fact that they got school buses. They use both. And even then, those buses are still quite full. So lots and lots of people do use the bus stops. And in winter, it gets very cold on that corner. So
What an advocate,
yeah. Well, mate, questions, Jan?
Why wouldn't you just have one bus stop for all the buses?
I think looking at the site, they do serve slightly different catchments. One's close to that corner by the BP and Hotman Motors and that other site, and the others is further to the west, if I remember right. I think it's probably more that they serve different catchments, and they're not solely there just for the use of for the school as well. Typically on a route like that, we used to space the bus stops about every 300 or 400 metres on the road of that type. So let's give or take a little bit. The interesting is they both appear to be very well used from what I saw today.
And just did we approach Adshell about providing them? I think $30,000 seems like a lot, just a shelter. And I've noticed that we've got a whole bunch of unused Adshell bus stops sitting around the city, like through Linwood, where Ike took the buses away. So can we just get some advice around reusing, relocating existing bus shelters that are no longer being used versus installing new?
Well, this will put me on the spot a little bit because it's been probably about 20 years since I've last dealt with Adshell and bus shelters. But the Adshell shelters aren't owned by council; they're owned by Adshell, and typically when a route changed, we requested Adshell to relocate those. The question would be whether those shelters are at the end of their life, and in some cases it's actually not worth shifting, although they may look in reasonable condition by the time you take them out, refurbish them, reinstate the path that they've come from, and then put in new footings and cabling. The other thing is they may not have any interest in going in this particular location. A number of years ago, I think from what I understand, they reached a fairly high saturation level with advertising. So it may also be a case this location would be one that,
maybe I should write that protective exchange. I'd be really keen just to know how we're assessing where abandoned bus stops are and shelters, and also how we reuse.
Yeah. So it's more there's information exchange than this. Joe and then Kelly.
Yeah, just following up from what Yanni said, the bus stops are only about 200 metres apart and just 3 of them. And the stop by the service station is mainly used by, it's used by students, but it's also used by people going to the doctors there and the other facilities. And then the next one, we were going to put this shelter, proposed shelter. A lot of people from QE2 also use that. So I'm really in favour of this, but I'm concerned that we would have feedback from the actual property owners.
Yeah, I guess we don't know the reason for that, but there's been quite a bit of time that they've had to respond. I guess if it was a real concern, we could pause it and wait for more time, or wait till we go and seek that if we wanted to. Are you suggesting something like that?
I wouldn't like to delay it any longer because of the weather's going to get nasty soon. How long does it take to install?
And it's worth noting too that this comes from a work that students from the school put in, and so it is arising from a request.
That's fantastic because we've had them come to the board a few times about different things.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
we've passed everything apart from the New Brighton Road one.
Oh, it's really cool. Yeah, really. The evidence around civics engagement is that you get students come and be involved in the process, whether they get what they want or not. That improves their participation in public life over a long period of time. Now, Kelly.
I'll just wait for this.
In terms of the installation time, once the base has been put in and the concrete set, it's a relatively quick process to install. I'm unsure whether this is going to be lit or anything. I don't think it is, given the other light that's in the area. But yeah, it is relatively. It also just of note, the section 339, if I remember correctly, relates to access. So that's specifically in the legislation in the Act is around, does this bus shelter prohibit access to and from those sites? And my understanding of where it's been positioned is up against the fences, which is away from the driveways. If that helps with any decision making.
part 7 of this report, at clause 7.4, the approved recommendations will be implemented during this financial year, dependent on the contract availability. The current stock of shelters is not suitable or available for the site. Purchase of the appropriate style of shelter may delay the installation approximately 3 months. Kelly.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. The particular type of bus shelter, is there glass involved in it? And the second,
It's been many years since I've put in bus shelters, but generally there's glass, and the reason for the glass is that it's still the most robust and cost-effective material to use. Perspex in particular has a tendency to be scratched, to be melted, so lyses and things, and can also be quite damaged by well-meaning people who try and clean off graffiti and end up clouding the Perspex. And Perspex can also still be broken.
do you have any idea of the incidence of damage of glass bus stop?
No, and from memory, it was site specific, and often there was a spate of them. No, I'm sorry, I can't answer that one as to what they're like now, but it is quite site specific. I mean, yeah.
In terms of cost, $30,000, that seems a lot for a bus stop. Is it, where does this fit in the sort of scheme of bus stops? Is this the king of the world bus stop, or is it a sort of average price one? Or,
from what I saw, this was fairly moderate. It's not particularly large or custom built, which typically we would have something that perhaps a higher spec if it was in a particularly busy location. But a lot of that is actually in the installation costs and the site-specific stuff around those underground services and the bases.
I'll just be thankful we're not building out of fresh fruit and veggies.
Exactly. And sorry, just one final question. Do we, are these done in-house by council, or do we hire contractors to supply these and place them?
My understanding is that there is a contractor who has the agreement with council, which they're tendered for to install bus shelters and seats and other infrastructure throughout the city.
Awesome. And thanks. Answer those really well.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Okay, no questions. All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll move to discussion now. I don't sense that there's any actual disagreement with this, but would someone like to move it?
Yep, I'll move it.
I move and seconded. I think that Kelly would. I saw your hand and then I heard Kelly's
Do you mind
voice.
if I take this one?
You
Kelly?
can move.
Yeah.
it.
I saw you. So moved by Celeste, seconded by Kelly.
Yeah.
Sorry, you just missed out, Alex. Celeste, as a mover, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, I just want to sort of recap what's already been said. I'm really in support of this. I think it's really fantastic when you have students leading an initiative like this. I met with the students back when they first were working on this through I think it was their social studies program, and they went out and talked with the community and gathered feedback, identified a need, and walking through a process the way that they've done and seeing it deliver a positive result for the community, I think is the best case scenario for anything we put into the community board. So I just want to sort of publicly acknowledge the work they've done, and also the fact that this is something that I think, as Joe's mentioned, will sort of support other users of the area, such as QE2 Pool. So I think it's great. I'd like to see more bus shelters in place around the area. I think there is a shortage. So yeah, I'd like to see more of this type of thing happen.
All right, thank you. And nobody wants to speak against?
No, but I'm happy to withdraw and let Alex second it, since it's
Oh.
his old.
Whatever's easier for Cindy.
Probably not to change it, to be honest.
Okay.
And it's already on the floor, so I'm going to be a stickler, and I'm going to put that as it is. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you. All right, we'll have a 1 minute adjournment. We are live. We're live, order please. Thank you, everybody. We come back to item number 8, which is the discretionary response fund application by Bromley Community Association Incorporated. Jackie.
I'm happy to move.
Happy to move. And seconded by Tim. Do we have any further discussion? Yeah.
I just, although I'm very supportive, I'm just really puzzled why this is coming out of the board's budget rather than the facilities budget. And I'm just increasingly concerned that, you know, we want fit for purpose buildings, we've got a maintenance budget. And like, why is this, do we know why this isn't covered? I mean, they're getting a whole new
Rory,
refurbishment.
can you answer that question?
I'm not honestly sure why it's not, you know, covered under the refit of the facility. So yeah, it's obviously just through conversations with Annette and the team there. And as the report outlines, you know, it's a need for them to ensure that the building is fit for purpose for that community. That, you know, they really are the kind of beacon of community facilities in the area. So I'm not sure.
Is there anything else that they want as part of the rebuild that the facilities have refused that would make the building functional?
I don't think anything that they've necessarily refused. Obviously, Annette's got
The facilities haven't refused it, have they? Has it
not to my awareness, they've refused anything. I know Annette's obviously got future plans of where she would like what she would like the facility to be in and the capacity of for the community. But I'm not aware of facilities have refused anything that the centre's asked for.
Alex and then Jackie.
Yeah, cool. I don't want anyone to take this as I'm not being supportive because I'm in support of. I've just got a really quick question about motorised versus non-motorised. Is there a specific reason for that?
Yeah, I guess it's just, you know, similar to these screens here in terms of, you know, safety of staff operating them, pulling them up, pulling them down, stuff like that. Yeah,
it's also a very high ceiling.
Okay, yeah.
Jackie?
I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe that there is an antiquated one that was there and it wasn't actually budgeted for when they did the thing for the refurbishment. So that, you know, that may or may not be why it's not included in there. In terms of having a motorised one over a non-motorised one, this facility is used by many people in the public. Right? They've got, it actually opens them up to a lot more use of the facility. But just for one thing, they've been approached now to do simplicity funerals because it's a cheaper rental option for people having funerals and so on. This is also a facility that we use when we're going into the Bromley community. So in terms of actually developing this into a state-of-the-art community facility, this is an essential item where I'm sitting at, yeah, 100% support it. They do amazing work there and they have so many groups and so many things running and they're so progressive in the way that they look at how they can use the facility. And I think it's an essential item for them.
Yeah, and I think we can make a note that this is the board has sought clarification on why this wasn't included in the refurbishment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also wanted us to check. So what came out of the meeting at the Aranui Community Centre was it doesn't have Wi-Fi. So I'd also like us to check around the IT. You know, Wi-Fi and IT, and whether there's, you know, adequate provision for in terms of the refurbishment. Yeah, if that was okay. And also the other thing that I'd like to get information on is we have a lot of odours in Bromley and we have a lot of COVID in Canterbury. And so is there any air filtration or, you know, I don't know what you exactly call it, the air purifiers that are being put in at the same time too to ensure that the air is as healthy as it can be.
Yeah.
But I'm really supportive of this and I guess it would be nice just to think about how we do make our facilities future proof for things like Zoom meetings because the number of meetings I've had there.
What I suggest we do then is we vote. I'll put the first one, which is the funding approval. And then we can note the other stuff or by resolution if you prefer. So it's been moved by Jackie, seconded by Tim. It's number of A. Number 1.
So I'll put that now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And then for that's next. So the board seeks clarification as to why purchase installation of motorised projector screen was not included in the refurbishment of the building. And then the second point, which Yanni, do you have words?
Yeah, and the board seeks advice as to any other requirements in regards to air purification and IT for the centre upgrade. Or sorry, any other say not requirements, any other facilities that may be required for meetings, or I don't know. There's probably a more elegant way to put it.
So the board seeks advice as to any other requirements in regards to air purification and IT, or for the I think probably just can just say for the community centre.
Maybe it's needs rather than
Yeah. Well, that's the same meaning, really.
No.
What about options?
Huh?
Options.
Needs.
Yeah, needs is fine. I think needs. You have it with needs, Jan?
Yeah, thank you. And just to highlight to members, for those who haven't been to Bromley, but we've had many community meetings there to do with like the odour issues. And if you saw, and the wastewater treatment, and if you saw the amount of effort that had gone.
Okay, let's Cindy?
To my 2 cents, sorry for you, Mr. Chair. When you say and IT, do you mean IT equipment and services? Really, I think just so we're clear as to.
Yeah, just that's a good
differentiation.
Technology.
Technology.
Well, that's quite a broad thing. Don't we mean you mean specifically Wi-Fi, didn't you?
Well, I don't know what I don't know, but to give you some examples, here's a few sensible things that previously there's been community board resolutions before this board, before the old board got disbanded and merged, but we'd asked for information or for a policy around Wi-Fi at our community facilities, and we'd also asked for
so
electronic.
Can you narrow it? Hold on a second, just can you clarify what it is you're wanting?
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I'll give you the three things that on top of the air purification. So one would be smart technology around access, so that you have digital codes for entry and exit, so that people don't have to drive to the Papanui Service Centre to grab the keys. Or, and one of the cases I had over the holidays was, no, you can't rent it on this day because no one's there for you to collect the key, over the public holiday. So therefore, the second thing would be something around Wi-Fi or internet access, making sure that that was available. And the third thing would be audio visual, which would be, probably some sort of sound system or speakers, so that if people are having a meeting, everyone can hear.
All right. Thank you, Yanni. Celeste and Joe.
Just as Yanni, have you heard about the smart cities thing?
Yes, I've heard about them. Yes.
Because one of the things that they're doing is they're doing some environmental monitoring stuff that do a lot of IT stuff. So they might be able to scope out the building in terms of reporting back, because they're working across a number of different areas. So I'm just wondering whether that could be incorporated in somehow. Because it's part of our smart Christchurch strategy. And I agree that our community facilities could be future-proofed. So if we're going to spend money, let's work with the team that's specialising in that.
Great, I'm happy to.
If you check out their website, it's quite interesting because it covers a lot of the things you're mentioning. It's just
Joe.
Yeah, I just want some clarity. Is this a community-owned asset or is it a council-owned asset?
Council-owned.
Sorry, council-owned. Okay. And why is the community funding this, or the Bromley community, or should it go through the council directly?
Well, I believe that it's leased.
It's leased
by the Bromley Community Association. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, there was one of the things. Sorry, I just remembered. But I was really interested that the council, for its sustainability fund, funded by Diamond Harbour Hall for solar, and I just wondered, if also as part of the upgrade, we should be actually looking at solar and grey water or rainwater reuse or collection. So Do you want me to?
It's not-
introduce it to the process?
Yes, please. I think it's a bit out of scope. Like, it's not something that I necessarily disagree with. I just think it's a bit, yeah, it's a bit wider than, yeah, I just think it's
Wi-Fi.
yeah, a bit wider than Wi-Fi. But thanks for thinking of it. All right. Well, I'm going to put those 2 points now. Yanni, you're moving them. Do we have a second to put them together?
Yeah.
Seconded by Tim. Any further discussion? I think we've had ample. So all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you. Now we can move on to the community board representation on outside organisations and committees.
Happy to move.
Happy to move by Kelly's. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by I'm going to go for you, Greg, because I know that person sitting there is in my bad side of my peripheral vision.
Apologies for you, Mr. Chair, please. Thank you so much for moving and seconding Kelly and Greg. However, that doesn't resolve resolution number 2 to appoint a member board.
You're going to do it first.
So
Why don't you
just
move
a
on?
wee bit fast for me there, thanks.
Yeah, so number 2, so I am happy to move that we, so we'll do the first one first. So we'll do them separately because we've already had a resolution on the floor. And I'm just going to put, so that's that we appoint Joanne Noble Nisbet as a trustee. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And the second, I move that we appoint Jackie Simons as a member, seconded by Alex, as board liaison to the Wilson Development Project. Just a little bit of an update for you while Cindy's reorganising it on our behalf. Wilson Development Project has been through a bit of change recently. They're employing trying to employ some new staff, and they've also had a bunch of new people come onto the board with a whole set of really awesome skills, a new chair, and they're now working in partnership with our community governance team on some of the issues around Wilson. So yeah, real cool, really good organisation. And yeah, Jackie just lives down the road. Unless there's any discussion.
No, not seconded by Paul. I'm sorry.
Who was the seconder? Okay, sorry, my
That's
apologies.
right. So I'm happy to put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you. We've dealt with that now. So item number 10 is the board area report. Chris.
It's just a really good report from the team, update on what's happening in the ward areas. Nothing specific for me to highlight, so happy just to take some questions.
All right. Do we have any questions? Yanni.
What was the pancake races? Did we?
I feel like Jackie could give you a really good account of that.
Did I must have missed the invite.
I think you might have been unwell, Yanni.
Yeah, it might have been. It was fun.
Yeah, but I think you might be better to do it than me.
Can you enlighten us a bit more like who the group is and what their purpose is?
You mean the Linwood Resource Centre?
Oh, that's Linwood Resource Centre.
Yeah, I'll tell them that you asked as to what they do.
We raced against Emily and Rory and we won, except the Paul didn't sit down. So
you lost.
So we did not get the loser frying pan, instead Rory and Emily got the loser pan.
No. Yeah, it's unparliamentary what it's called actually.
Oh, that's cool. And then the other thing was, I was quite puzzled that Children's Day was just cancelled rather than postponed. I would have thought with all the work and the funding that goes into it, that there would be like a postponement date that would be put in place. Are we able to get some advice on why that's not the case?
It'd be better to be Saturday and have a delay late till Sunday the next day, if it was delayed.
So
Yeah,
it's not, it's completely outside my area, but what I would imagine is because of the sheer size of the event, it's a real difficult one to put a rain date in place because of the amount of prep that goes into it. Yeah, I think it's similar to, there's some other events where it's a single day to put up, and if it can't go, it can't go.
Good question.
Yeah, is that a metropolitan question though?
Yeah, I mean, I can buy something through and get an answer from you from the person that's project leading it for you.
Right, do we have any other questions for Chris? Joe?
I was just going to bring up about the Snapsen Solve. You've got the current tickets open and everything, but is it quite a bit of dissatisfaction out there about reports on the app not being resolved, and also some other issues? Are we able to bring that up after this report gets passed or now?
So, I mean, this report is literally just a snapshot in time. It tells you if you or the community have got concerns around sort of levels of service in terms of the time frames. That's separate to this report. This is just for info.
Yeah, I think it was just some not being resolved, and also the numbers not matching up again. And we've brought that up before with staff about the numbers not matching. So if you get a Snapsen Solve report, that number is different from the council number, and there's no way to liaise between the two.
Yeah, it's a bit perplexing. Like it makes it very, like I've got somebody, I've got some emails to do about it, but who has lodged, somebody who voluntarily does a whole bunch of weeding and stuff along the wood, and they've lodged a whole bunch of Snapsen Solves. And they're like, look, there's too many for me to give you the numbers for them. So I've asked for the email address associated with them. I'm hoping that's a way of doing it. But like, how are we supposed to follow up if there's no matching number? I mean, so far, I'd say my experience has been fairly good with that. But like, I have a bunch of Snapsen Solves that I haven't had follow-ups from that are minor little things, but they're still, if that's my experience, then I imagine lots of other people.
Yeah, for example, I had one to follow up the other day from South Shore, and she didn't have the council report number, but she had Snapsen Solve number. And of course, it doesn't actually tie into the council system with the two numbers.
See, I kind of hear what you're saying, but in the next respect, I'm confused by what you're saying, because when you send them through to me to check, you give me a number, be it your Snapsen Solve number, your hybrid ticket number, or your customer services number. They all kind of link back to the same system. So I'll go and liaise with customer services who have better understanding and knowledge of the system, and be like, where's this setting, who's this setting with, and I can give them whatever driplets of information you give me, and I can ascertain the issue, who it's been referred to, and then I'll go back and chase that for you.
So my question is then, so that's because of you, like we've been able to get this stuff followed up. But for the general member of the public, when you ring up the council and you've made a Snapsen Solve request and you're like, oh, I'll just ring them, can you follow it up?
They should be able to. From that, they're doing exactly what I'm doing, apart from by phone, and I'm doing it.
So, for an example, one of the ones also with, I'm crazy on Snapsen Solve, and I might have like 10 on the foreshore, and I get a response from the council with the ticket, but it'll say New Brighton foreshore, and it doesn't say whereabouts and which one corresponds with which one. So I might get a response from the council with the ticket number, which may not correspond to the actual Snapsen Solve event. So it would be really good to be able to have the Snapsen Solve number on the council ticket as well as the ticket number. It would make things a lot easier.
Yeah, we can give that feedback, but I imagine if it's something as simple as that, they would have done it. So it might be that it's just two different.
I think it's been,
two different systems.
yes, the feedback opportunity and from staff has been given, so absolutely, we can provide more feedback.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've repeatedly given feedback as well around the snaps and solve, and also the response that people get back to say things have been solved when actually all been resolved, when actually all they've been done is pass on to a contractor and nothing's actually happened.
So that message should have been updated, because that's the previous board here provided that feedback, and we were told it's changed to say it's been resolved or passed to a contractor. So it shouldn't be simply as.
Yeah, it still sort of misleads people when it, they just want to know like where is it in the queue. But anyway, just wanted to check. Quite concerning the huge amount of water supply complaints that we're getting in the Linwood ward.
I suspect it's because of the Orion stuff, and people aren't necessarily aware that their water is being, go down Harvard Street at the moment. There's all that.
I don't know, but can we ask for like the thing that I've asked for before, which is quite useful, and we've had it with some of the complaints around waste from the waste team, is that they've shown on like a heat map of where the complaints are coming from, so you can see there's one or two streets that where the odour complaints have been really bad, and then you go, oh, that's the massive Chilton Street through Phillipstown wastewater pipe, and so it kind of makes sense. Are we able to get a breakdown, like just a heat map of the complaints?
It's a really good suggestion.
And also the other one that struck me was the waste, and I don't quite know what. I don't know what comes into waste. I would presume it might be litter or something, but it would be good just to get a breakdown, given that that's so much higher than the other wards, if that was possible.
I do think that in our ward we get a lot of stuff dumped on the side of the road, and I suspect, I assume that that's what waste is.
The key was just to understand within the reporting whether there are any particular trends around streets that we could identify.
Any further questions of Chris or team? Alex?
Yeah, just quickly, just for clarification, because on that report, the board report, it says open and then closed / resolved. Is when it's sent forward to contractors considered resolved, or is that closed that number? So this is 2,444. It says closed / resolved. Does that include tickets that have been sent to contractors that still haven't been followed up, or is it done?
I don't know the answer. Do you?
Yeah.
It's resolved.
we had this question last time, because if you look at the currently open tickets, 3,957. It says 25% are less than 20 days, 50% are less than 102, and 75 less than 262 days. So
I've asked about that.
that
A
doesn't
breakdown of
really
those.
75% of open tickets are less than 262 days.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
262 days.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So they're saying 2,000 customers haven't had resolve over 102 days.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Less than 102, but 75% are.
It would be good to get.
Doesn't make sense.
I mean, it would be good to have a conversation with the people who understand how the systems integrate, like to get at least an explanation about, so we can better understand, because it is the prime, like in terms of people trying to solve problems, it's the primary way that people interact with the council. So it would be good if we kind of had some idea of what it all meant and how we could improve it. Yeah. So we could make a note of it.
See if it will come out.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, thank you very much for your report. We don't just receive that, do we?
We don't.
We do. We do. Oh no, we do.
I'll move it.
Moved by Joe, seconded by Greg, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you. And finally, we have elected members information exchange. We'll be kind of, yeah, just let's remember that Cindy and the team already have a bunch of stuff that we've given them. So if they had any updates for us, they would have provided them to us already. This opportunity for us primarily to get information or to share information that we think everybody else needs to know. So Alex, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it's both bullet points. I just want to inform the board that I raised a notice of motion last week, which Silly seconded. And I guess I wanted to know my disappointment at the same time. So I'm not going to go into specifics about the notice of motion entirely because of the reason it was declined. But essentially it asked always to pursue the RMF extension, so requesting an investigation. Now that was declined by the chief executive. So I'd just like to request, I guess, a report on how we can expedite the RMF extension.
Yeah, we can. I guess we can request information.
Yeah.
So we and this is a note. It's not a motion.
Yeah.
Because it's not on the paper.
Yeah.
But we can seek information about how to obtain information needed to provide options for progressing the RMF extension.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yep. So this.
Just following on the second notice of motion, which Alex seconded, that was about bringing forward a city vacant differential, which is the increasing rates on land that's not used or otherwise developed in the central city. Council agreed last annual plan to extend it to some suburban areas that had evidence that there was a problem. And Brighton was one of the areas that had a significant number of buildings / land that weren't being developed. So moving forward, I'll be going back to council to look at what we can do there. But as part of the annual plan process, it would be good to encourage people if they would like that to be brought forward. Currently, it starts at 1st of July 24. What would be great is if we could bring it back to 23, this is July 23. And what that means is if we run a trial out in New Brighton and it's successful, then we can look at extending it to other parts of the city, suburban areas where there is also a need to incentivize development of areas that are currently being land banked. So
that could be in our community board, potentially, our community board submission on the annual plan to bring it forward. And, that could be something that we raise as one of the coastal issues when we do our consultation, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. So we can do that.
Anzac Day is coming up soon. Have we discussed reefs?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any discussion of reefs.
Have you done that last 3 years?
Yep. So from memory, and I'll double check tomorrow I'm back in the office. One of the first reports this did was around confirming your funding allocations, and one of those was for the Anzac, from memory, so you don't have to remember now. But I'm pretty sure the board set aside funding for the reefs, so I'll check and I'll confirm with the board.
I think we did. But what I'd like to ask the board is instead of a reef, we have a flag for the Aramuri one. It's getting a bit tepid.
Who owns the flag?
Me.
Well, I don't think that you can participate in that discussion, Tim. So let's you.
Actually, no, I don't. The community does.
Who's the community?
They came with a flag pole, so the major family trust paid for the flag.
So who is the legal entity that owns it?
Council.
The council owns it? Yeah. Okay, well, in that case, then I think we can ask for more information about the Aranui flagpole flag.
So was that donated by the major family trust?
Flagpole and the flag was.
As in the mayor and his
family trust, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
And Port will pay for the surrounding.
Hold on a second.
And I did the labour.
Cindy has some information.
No, I just want to ask a question just in relation to the Anzac Day services. So prior to COVID, my recollection, there was 2 services held in the Coastal-Burwood wards, but I'm unaware of the services that are held in Linwood.
Yeah, good point.
So sooner rather than later, I know we're in March, but Anzac Day isn't that far away. If you guys are aware of any services
Yeah, I know you one.
and in which you would like to present a reef and or flag dependent on the investigation, can you let me know? Because that will help with budgeting and the size and then finding the relevant elected member to attend the service.
So we know the Aranui one, and we know there's one.
Which is in Linwood, by the way.
Which is actually on the Linwood side. And yeah, do you know any more in Linwood?
The Friends of Linwood Cemetery do, it's not on Anzac Day, but they do a reading. So it'd be really good. And also,
So sorry, so would a reef be required for that?
We've got a reef.
Okay.
And also they've been trying to get a memorial plaque, and I don't know if anyone's.
Where of that, they asked for it to be shared with the board. However, it's not in a position that it can be shared with the board for a decision and or a steer. So once I've got the process agreed with the asset owner, i.e. the landowner council, about process, and they're currently working with Friends of Linwood.
Yeah, cool.
Then as soon as they've got that agreed, then dependent on if board have delegation or not, will it come to the board, or I'll just provide you with their proposal?
I was just going to say it'd be cool to get it in before Anzac Day. And,
which is exactly what I've been mindful of, hence why I've gone straight to staff rather than the board first.
I appreciate that.
Just reminded me, he's supposed to have one for everyone. Our new flagpole, I forgot all about it. So we've got $100 for a flag.
Sorry?
We need to have $100 for a little plaque.
That's okay.
You'll need a board resolution for that, I'm afraid.
All right. Hold on. Like, everybody wants to talk. So, is that you finishing off that item?
Yeah, just finishing off that. The only other thing I thought that would be nice, given what's happening in Wolves at the moment, but there.
No, it's not finishing it off.
No, we did put a hawk to remove. We did put a place to lay a reef in Wolfston with the rebuild of the community library centre, and I just think it would be a nice thing to do. Doesn't need to be a big flash reef, but I thought it would be quite nice to put something to recognise that. Yeah, so
I guess we can seek information about that.
Yeah, cool.
All right, cool, thanks. Joe.
Yeah, so New Brighton will get a parade. And also just recently, they actually replaced the flag, and that was the RSA who replaced it.
I've got RSA down.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, cool. Liz?
I was just going to confirm that New Brighton RSA is on the list, which is great. Thank
So
you.
Burwood's not having one, Burwood School, the old Burwood School site.
Yeah, the Bureau meeting last month, they were talking with the scouts around the scouts running that, and then in conjunction with the All Saints Church. So there was more discussions probably tonight around that with a go later.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So we'll confirm the budget as well, because you've named quite a few. They might be very small routes, depending on how much the board set aside. So once we've got that info, we'll share it with you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, is that the Anzac reef flag discussion completed? I think it might be. All right. Does anyone have anything else to share? Joe?
I have put in a request for a big tidy up of the ward, especially along New Brighton Road with the entrances into our ward. And last board term, that was one of our priorities, was to keep the entrance roads looking nice and tidy. We've got the City to Serve happening very shortly, and they're going to be coming along New Brighton Road and into Rafiti. And we've also got the Surf Life Saving Nationals happening this week, but so far, they've more or less just said thanks for your suggestion. And things are looking pretty dire. So I don't know if there's any way we can actually, as a board, hurry things on and try to get some action. Because it's just embarrassing having all the City to Serve runners run past what's there at the moment.
Can I seek clarification as to what you mean and what needs to be tidied up so I can give a heads up to the relevant?
So it's mainly the litter and long overgrown riverbank.
So
the red sign,
the riverbank.
Yep, the red sign side is looking really good, but the other side of the road is always neglected, or they mow like a patchwork. It's been mowed and it's all like this.
So we're
And it'll be-
referring to what road?
New Brighton.
Okay, Riverbank and that'll pick up on New Brighton Road.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we've got CDGC happening and want it to look much better than it does.
In addition to that same area, but it's also the weeds that are through the gutters along that same section, New Brighton Road on the river side of it.
I've done quite a few snaps and solves on that too. Got lots of photos.
Cool, thank you. I had a discussion today with Roy Appley, who suggested that along with the letter that we've sent to the police minister and minister and commissioner, that we might want to. So I was going to do this, but I thought I'd tell you that I was going to do it. Write to the area commander and ask that the Linwood neighbourhood and Phillipstown neighbourhood policing team, at least on a temporary basis, be extended to include Brixton, so that at this particular time, when there's some need, that just having a bit more visible presence, and that's probably quite feasible. And so you have the Anna Partridge, who's the constable. But that's like the CIB side, that's the criminal investigation. And then the neighbourhood policing teams would deal with the kind of some of the antisocial issues deal with. So the two different parts of the police. And I'm also having a discussion tomorrow with I'm meeting Anna to have a bit of a chat with her, which is really cool. Jackie, did you want to update the board about the walk that we did around Wilson?
So we've seen, like on social media, the general consensus is that nothing is being done in Wolston and that the alcohol ban has made no difference. So Paul and I went around the business precincts and talked to them, and the business owners are saying there's definitely an improvement in antisocial behaviour. There's less litter, there's less people sitting around being drunk or drinking. So the alcohol ban is having an effect. It's just that we do have an element that is going to say it's not working for whatever the reasons are, but the general consensus is that there's a lot of
it's not to say that there's not issues or challenges.
No, there's still issues.
And that there's not antisocial behaviour, but that like the kind of approach, the general attitude, and it wasn't the only one, but the general one was that these are people who are part of our community. We don't want to drive them out. We just want to stop them behaving the extreme element of the behaviour, and we want them to get the help that they need. And the second element was actually like the feedback about the police response when it was really bad was that when people call 111, so not 105, but 111, the response is really good. I know that's not the experience of everybody, but it was actually a really positive experience walking around and chatting to business owners.
I mean, it was. We still have the people that have been ferried in, and unfortunately, we do have people in our community that are referring to the homeless people who are part of our community. They are awesome people, they are living there, but there's a little bit of stirring going on. They're saying that they're not necessarily real homeless people, but in actual fact, they are. You can see they've got their belongings there. So there's a lot of work to be done in that area, but just baby steps, just keep going.
Yanni and then Celeste.
Thank you. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing on that. I've also been doing a little bit of work on that. And I can say I am getting complaints from the library over the users who are hiring the hall having to deal with people sleeping and sitting. Basically, there's a camp that's been established at the front of the community hall, and it is quite confronting. So I appreciate that these people should have somewhere to go. And my understanding is they have actually been offered places to go, so they've been offered emergency housing, which they've declined. And I just don't think it's really fair on the users who are booking the hall to have to deal, and confront that sort of activity. So I'd like to know what council's doing to actually address it. I know in the central city, for example, council used discretionary money, gave it to the CCBA to hire security guards. And maybe the board could consider asking council to urgently put in some social workers in Wolston to deal with the antisocial behaviour. But it does seem to me inherently unfair, both for people that are using the library and children and senior citizens, and also people that are hiring the hall, to have to be able to confront what's going on in both the car park at the back and next to the preschool and to the people at the front. Can also report that sadly there's been a lot of vandalism to the beautiful library that we got built. So all the light fittings have been removed, all the light bulbs have been removed from the light fittings, and it's just not a very good outcome. So appreciate the work that's been done, appreciate the contact with the police. The feedback I'm getting from people though is that they are quite worried about what's going on and actually would like council to do more. And I think that's actually a pretty reasonable request.
So I think, the other thing is that you would have seen the email, I think, that there is an interagency meeting that's been jointly organised by me with support of the staff and Tracy McClellan.
What meeting did you say?
There is a meeting that's going to be organised, and ideally it's not going to be swamped with elected members. So although you're welcome to come, just the 3 Linwood members is probably ideal, because otherwise we actually won't have enough room for everybody in the space. But so there's a whole bunch of agencies, and there is work that's going on the scenes to deal with this. And I think that there, even within the community library, the how people feel about what's going on is there's not a uniform impression, and it's not like, I understand that there is a lot of frustration, but I think we need to have this meeting with the agencies before we look at any.
Yeah, that's fine. I support that. That request was put in November last year. So I'm glad something's finally happening, but it does seem a sensible thing to do is get everyone in the room together and work out some common strategies about who's responsible and who can do what.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're going to be able to.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the
Jackie?
meantime, in the short term, I'm really worried about the risk to people, and I don't think it's acceptable, the level of risk that exists from the activities that is occurring. So, I think as councillors and as board members, we have an inherent duty under, the health and safety, work safe, to make sure that people in these environments are safe. You've got volunteers operating a community library, you've got user groups renting the council space from us. And I can't think of any other council facility in the city where that's enabled, where we allow people just to set up a camp right outside.
Yeah, and I'll go Jackie after this, but to be fair, the people come and go, and they're not there all the time, and like the other day, for instance, in the morning and for most of the day, they weren't there, and then when you went at 8:30 at night, they were there.
The 3 nights I've been last week, they were there, and growing in numbers as well. So.
Yeah, and it is a challenge, and we have a cost of living problem, and we have a homelessness problem.
Yeah, sorry. With respect, there is housing available for these people. They are deliberately choosing not to take it.
So I'm gonna. It's Jackie's turn.
The ones that we've spoken to, that I spoke to on Friday, are waiting for emergency housing. They haven't actually turned any housing down. There's been calls from the community for the council to trespass these people from the car park, but the car park is not actually owned by council, it's privately owned car park. So there's limits to whether or not we can actually put security guards into that car park. But for the most part, when I have been there, the homeless people that I have seen, genuinely homeless people, not the ones that have trucked in harassing people in the car park, genuinely homeless people. They may look scary, but for the most part, they just don't have anywhere else to go. So we can kick them out and we can kick them down to, the latest part, or we can do what we did last week, get hold of Housing First, get Housing First down to talk to them and actually find out that they are waiting for emergency housing. This is the couple that have just arrived in the last week, waiting on emergency housing. So this is a much bigger problem than just Wolston Library. This is a citywide issue. There's pockets of this all over. And I think, getting into the interagency meeting and actually discussing things with them and seeing what we can do rather than responding to social media stuff that isn't necessarily correct, but actually getting out there and walking around, talking to people and doing the work is what we need to do.
All right, let's thank you, Jackie. Let's move on to non-Wolston issues. I think it was you, Celeste, and Joe.
Just quickly, I just want to acknowledge, it is important to hear about the differing kind of challenges in other areas. So thanks for sharing that. Just to give you an update on the community safety stuff in the New Brighton area, we had a meeting, I think it was last week, with the local DP Porto and some local stakeholders who operate out of the mall, representatives from the businesses and New Brighton project, specifically to just talk about what we can be doing better in that space, because there isn't currently a new business or landowners association. So a few action points have come out of that, just waiting for confirmation of that. So that's something that we are keen to sort of share information with, because we're aware that there's some overlapping issues. So once we sort of have something to come back with, we can share that information, so it might be quite helpful. I definitely think the interagency approach, which we're trialling, is really good. And then just the second request would be whether, I know in another community board area, the Fenelton, Waimari, Hewood Community Board, they had a safety expo. And I think, down the track, it doesn't have to be a short-term thing, but it might be a nice thing to consider. I know that there's been quite an uptick in crime in general. There's not an uptick in crime. There's been some instances of vandalism with cars in particular.
You just reminded me, sorry to interrupt, but I also asked for a briefing in the letter that I wrote to the police from the evidence-based policing centre around what actually does reduce crime, because there's lots of reactionary kind of things that people think that, but they actually make it worse.
Yeah, and I think following on from that, really some evidence-based information about how to deter break-ins to cars and things would be really useful for the community. I know the police have done a few safety expos around the other parts of the city, so having something out the side of town in the eastern suburbs, I think, would be really helpful. I know personal experience, my car's been broken into twice, so it is happening a wee bit. So yeah, that's something we could look into with the police. They have a specific team that manages that, so it would be good to liaise with them.
The other thing that also reminds me is that that Pacific Guardian model would potentially might be something we could replicate in other areas like Wolston.
Yeah, that's something that we're looking into at the moment, so happy to share information with you more. And the second quick point about the safety expo would be around what support for businesses. I know Alex had looked into this previously, and there is the Ministry for Business and have a scheme at the moment, but it's very limited in who it applies to. But it would be good to get some information to share with the community around what's available in terms of supporting businesses who've had any sort of issues in terms of robberies and things. So just a bit more information on that would be good too.
Cool, thanks Celeste. Joan?
Okay, yeah, it kind of follows on from what Celeste said. I went to the open day the other day for the New Brighton Info Centre. And so, it was really good. There are resources there for people in need, and it's something I think most communities should have. They're going to have drop-in sessions, people from the loft, people from the bank at Blank, the Compassion Trust. So there's going to be a lot of resources there for people in need. We had it really bad in New Brighton last June, and with the homeless and addicts and everything. And we actually made quite a bit of progress, mainly through getting hold of staff, and staff were quite good because we had so many living in public toilets as well. So they were monitoring the toilets and actually locking them at certain times and opening them at other times. But, you know, there's only so much you can do. And as we know, because we had, you know, it was quite tragic, the lady getting beaten up and being killed, sleeping outside of business. But I think, you know, there are these avenues, and she got offered all the help in the world and didn't take it. So it's a really, really tricky one to actually go and try to do much better. But staff are willing to help if you just put in a phone call to them and get hold of them, and they're quite good.
Thank you. Yanni?
Just on a different subject, is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I was just wondering when the board's going to be briefed on the craft project, because I've got a number of schools and people in the community that are continuously asking me what's happening, and it would be nice to be able to know when the briefing is to let people know. And also I was going to ask if we are able to have that briefing open to the public and the community so that they can understand what progress we're making on craft. Do we have a date for it?
So it's on my board, which means it's in the next 2 months. I can confirm that. I just can't visualize the month.
Oh,
so it's definitely in the near future.
We'll share when.
With regards to it being publicly available, or if we can live stream it or invite people, I will seek clarification. I can't make promises, but I'll.
So we're told it would be in March, so that's why I was raising it, because I was mindful it's on me.
It's scheduled, we'll confirm the date.
Yeah, that is obviously just not, don't know from memory, but it's soon. I mean, it would be great if we could have it available to the public. Yeah, I agree.
The other thing I just wanted to raise was just concern over the toxic chemical spill in the Okawaho Edgar, and just to raise complete concern that the board has had no, as I understand, no updates, no information, and it affects, you know, it's a serious impact on a small part of our community. I appreciate that, but there are a lot of recreational users, a lot of people that use the river in this location for food gathering, for walking their dogs, and for recreation or enjoyment. And to have to have nothing come through, I think I sent around the update we got as councillors, but I find it extraordinary that we haven't had a briefing, that we haven't had any updates on a daily basis about what's been done. So are we able just to register our concern to the Chief Executive around the response, and to understand what the protocols are for informing us as local elected members, but also to make sure that we get appropriate signage up within a reasonable time frame based on the risk, and to and going forward what the cleanup.
So I mean, it's upsetting and disgusting that it happened, and obviously there's ECAN will be doing an investigation, but like my question is around what should happen, because as far as we can tell, there was the council and ECAN pointing fingers at each other as to who's responsible. So I would like to really ask who, you know, what under the law, who is responsible for what, and you know, when, you know, I mean, the main risk obviously is to dogs and wildlife, because those are the main users of the river. So not necessarily an immediate risk to human beings, but it's still like the thing that leaves me feeling annoyed is both the finger pointing. So
yeah, and we saw this over we saw this over the break with the issue with beaches as well, where there was just this blame back and forth between ECAN and council who's responsible for signage. ECAN tells council's responsible. Like, I don't know who's responsible. That's why I thought it would be quite good for us to understand and find out. But you know, I can say as someone who's walked around that area that there's some limited signs being put up after, you know, a few days, but certainly nowhere near to the level that I would expect for the, you know, the people, the area that people are using. So I just think
we just need some information.
Be good to get some information, but also the most important thing is to start getting some decent communication to the community over what the risks are and what the process is around cleanup. If you look on social media, people are very distressed about seeing the dead, you know, the thousands or the hundreds of dead fish being eaten by the birds, and then what, you know, what risk is that creating? And again, we must have people within the organisation, council and ECAN. And just the only other point I wanted to raise is we've got the community liaison group report for the Bromley Odour meeting, but I was quite concerned in that report to say, to be told that the organics plant is compliant. They've had another notice of non-compliance last week. And also there's no reference to the information that we got in the briefing around the PEP assessments. And I thought that's a bit unfair to the local community to have no information about what the council is actually doing to address the odour in the report. So can we ask that the community get an understanding of what steps council is taking to mitigate the odour, rather than just, you know, being told that it's compliant when clearly it's not. And just, you know, put it into context, for the however many years, the decade that I've been involved, this would probably be one of the highest quarters of non-compliance notices from ECAN ever, and yet the report is saying that it's fully compliant and that there's no offensive or additional odour beyond the boundary, which is just completely you know, ironic. And probably
we know that the council staff believe that it's compliant, and that's their legal position. But we also know that the community, that it smells, and it's smelt for a long time. It's better than it was, but it's still unpleasant and affecting people's lives. Jackie.
Just two things with regards to the dead fish floating in the Heathcote River. It might not be threatening to humans today, but leaving and that toxic spill might not still be coming into the river, but the actual presence of that dead decaying matter is actually really bad for the ecosystem of the river, which then can spread further out of the cut where it is at the moment and into the general body of the river. So it is of serious concern that there's been no cleanup of those dead fish. I just want to say that. And secondly, do we know what date the organics processing plant is now going back to council? Because I think it would be good to know and be there.
Yeah.
So the liaison group meeting's on Monday the 13th, and then at 6:30 at night, and then 9:30 the next day, the council's making decisions on it. And I just also, sorry, I meant to acknowledge, I just want to acknowledge Jackie and Paul, but Jackie in particular, for a really passionate deputation to the board's report to council last week on the organics processing plant. And I don't know if there's watched it, that sort of stuff, but yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge, thank you to the chair and deputy chair for their strong advocacy around the impact it's having on people's lives. Thank you.
Thanks, Yanni, and yeah, thank you, Jackie, for your very articulate advocacy for our community.
I can put in there just to respond to one of the questions.
Yes.
That's all right. Just on the river. So I know you've put in a request to the Office of the Sea, so it's already in there. So rather than doubling up on that, I'll ask the OC to respond to the board as well to share.
Yeah, I told them we couldn't get briefing today. That would be good to get a briefing.
Just rather than firing up to other units and everyone running around.
So it does, like, who is responsible for cleaning up when there's a spill, something like that, when we don't know who's responsible, like who actually who let stuff into the river, who is responsible for cleaning, removing as much of the toxic material as possible? At the moment, when you've got both authorities pointing at each other's fingers, nothing, and it's not good enough. I think we might have given the So enough notes to write for elected members and exchange, but if anybody has anything that they think we really need to discuss now, then
Very quick.
to this, yeah.
I'm just aware that the annual plan consultation is open on the 10th. I just have a question. Will we be given any resources to share with the community if we want to, say, go to the market and have opportunities to talk to people about it? Because it is quite a lot to get your head around. And a quick follow-up to that is, can we request something that's additional to what's already been provided, like quite simplified, localized information, or is that a bridge too far?
So quite again, sorry, we should always go through the chain. Quite often they'll provide, the full draft annual plan, which is really comprehensive, but they normally provide also a really short, easy to digest version. So they normally provide both the full consultation, the full draft plus a consultation document. I know that the print runs are really limited because of budget, so it might not be that you're handed physical collateral, but you should be sent copies of links and written.
And is that localized? It's great having an abridged version, but would they give you one that?
No, they won't break it down, but my understanding is that they're reactivating or they've updated the bubble tool, as they used to call it, and that's really your best way of getting the localized, because you can search by ward or suburb or however, so you could just type in coastal, and there's an export button, so you can export all of the projects for coastal too.
And a similar request has gone to the Chairs Forum Thursday, so.
From me.
Yeah.
So Paul can find Richard.
So it's currentcurrently sitting with our unit head. So there's these work happening around that.
Yeah. I think Yanni had your hand, but Yanni,
yeah,
it's just as us Linwood people have quite a bit, so I just want to go to Joe before we go to her.
Yeah,
and then Kelly, and then
it was just related to solicitor.
Oh, okay.
It's very good. Just
yeah.
Oh yeah, just to say, it'd be really good to get some information too around the impact of the surf projects and the deferred projects. So things like the major cycleways that have now been deferred in the east, and it would just be good to have, you know, some just like an A4 with some clear information about what's happening, because it is really hard to understand.
Thank you, Joe. And Kelly.
Just following up in regards to the fish. I don't know what happened a couple of years ago, but there were a hell of a lot of dead fish washed up at South Shore on the beach and in the estuary. And I'm not sure if we can actually find out any information about how they were dealt with.
Good to know.
Well, it's just something that happened, and there was like hundreds or thousands of them. And I think the birds got to them in the end, but it might be something that's in the historic notes.
Cool, thank you. And Kelly.
Cool. Thank you. So I assume we're just talking about what we've been up to and what
well, not the main function of the League of Members Information Exchange, which I think is to get and share information. Okay. But if you had something that you think that the other members would benefit from.
Oh, and I was just going to say that recently I was involved in a playground cleanup in Preston's Park, which was very successful. People have been complaining about council, but it wasn't actually council, it was developer who hadn't had the area handed over. So motivated a group of people, got them involved, and yeah, we had a great cleanup there. And since then, developers done a whole lot of other stuff. I'm running a trailer day with the mayor this weekend in Avondale, which should be good, as we were asked to help out by the Avondale Neighbours Group. Been fielding a lot of queries about rats, which in Avondale, which has been kind of isolated to a certain property, so that's been dealt with. Also off to a public meeting next week about the flooding in a couple of streets in Avondale, and have arranged for someone from Three Waters to come and speak to those residents about the particular situation. Yeah, we're still getting a lot of frustration about the Preston's Park Marahau Road entrance. Yeah, people are pretty frustrated, but yeah, we're not exactly sure where exactly the problem is, why it has not been planned yet. And I think Greg and I are off to Beara tonight, where Urban East Residents Association, where David Mittle's going to be speaking about the retail projects. And
I'm going to Spencerville tonight.
yeah, there's certainly lots on. And last thing about the fish, I mean, the fish line, do they know that that's a chemical spill or?
We don't have any more information than that, so it could be, I mean, who knows what it is? It could be a fish virus, I don't know. But when things like that have happened before, I remember there was a case in Hagley Park, where it was a upstream, somebody had poured something down a stormwater drain in the industrial area, way upstream, and they got fined. So, but yeah, there's plenty of possibilities in the area.
All right, that's all for me.
Oh, all right. I'll take. Oh,
Sorry.
no, need one more. Yeah.
Following on what they said about Burwood Road, Burwood and Murray Hart intersection, we had a message on the Facebook page the other day about, you know, when is this going to be done and all the dangers, and also following up from what we sent an email about the school and the students. So that intersection has been deferred. And what happened last time was they were waiting to see what impact the opening of the new motorway would have on that intersection, and it's had no impact at all. So it actually does need to be priced forward. And someone said the other day that intersection and roundabout was put in probably the 70s or 80s, and since then so much development's happened in that area, and we really need to actually push on with it. So I've let Greg and Kelly know about it, and they can kind of follow it through with the school as well. But just to let everyone know that we've deleted the board Facebook page.
All right. Oh, on that note, shall we do the close the meeting and do our
Do you want to? We know.
well, that
I'll do it.
Cindy's going to deal with it.
I'll record it in the minutes to refer it to staff.
Yeah, we can't make.
I just thought we could ask a little bit also Streets for People project, because it seemed a really good.
Yes, we need a we can't make a resolution. So, all right. Kara kia whakamutanga. Unuhia, ki te taku, kia wātia, kia mama, te nāko, te tina, te wairua, te ara takata. Koia rā, whakaia, aki kia tina, hui tā. Thank you, everybody.
I know the first one I'll comment.